What's up, guys? My name is Andrew Erickson. Today I'm going to be breaking down my trade targets for Week 11 because the trade deadlines are coming up. But before I get into my list of players to trade for before Week 11 kicks off, if you want a chance to win a signed TJ Hawkinson Minnesota Vikings jersey, courtesy of Pristine Auction, the premier autographed sports memorabilia auction house, all you have to do is subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, comment below on this video, and that is it. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and claim your prize. And if you didn't win, you can still sign up at pristineauction.com using the link in our video description. And if you use the registration code FantasyPros, you'll get $10 off your first order. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight to the list for Week 11 kicks off. DJ Moore, Chicago Bears bye. The Lions and Vikings are the next two matchups for Chicago before a Week 13 bye week. Then it's the Lions again, Browns, Cardinals, and Falcons. It's a great schedule, and the number one for quarterbacks overall, which should have a positive impact on wide receiver DJ Moore, who is still the clear wide receiver one on the Bears offense. Against the Panthers last Thursday night, Moore totaled 5 catches for 58 yards on 9 targets, good for a 28% target share and 50% air yard share. The usage is there, and the production should bounce back with Justin Fields probable to return for Week 11. Trade for DJ Moore with Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen, or this next sell high running back. Running back Najee Harris, Pittsburgh Steelers, sell. Jaylen Warren led the rushing attack with 15 carries for 101 yards, averaging an impressive 6.7 yards per carry and scoring a touchdown in Week 10. Harris was also effective, rushing for 82 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries with his longest run of 24 yards to go along with 2 red zone carries. Harris has scored 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Use that to sell high, because even though he led the first half 11 carries to Warren's 6, in the second half, Warren outcarried Harris 9-5. Warren was getting the rock when they were trying to burn Green Bay's timeouts. It still appears like a true 50-50 split rather than a 1A, 1B situation in favor of Harris. Both guys played 51% of the snaps the last time they suited up. More importantly, it was the highest snap share Warren has seen all season at that 51% mark. Warren was also more involved in the passing game with 4 targets, resulting in 2 catches for 9 yards. He ran more routes than Harris. He also finished second in total rushing EPA in Week 10. Warren's stock is firmly on the rise, and I think the genie's out of the bottle. Buy Warren and sell Najee for this must-buy wide receiver coming off his worst game of the season. Marquise Brown, Arizona Cardinals, buy. Michael Wilson and Marquise Brown made limited contributions in Week 10, with Wilson catching 3 passes for 34 yards on 6 targets. Brown added just 1 catch for 28 yards. Wilson came extremely close to scoring a touchdown, but was overturned on review. But more noteworthy, Rondale Moore saw his most targets of the season. Tight end Trey McBride was also super involved in Kyler Murray's first game back. But that won't happen every single week because that's how offenses specifically attack the Falcons' defense, with slot receivers and tight ends. It was a good matchup for Rondale Moore and Trey McBride, not for Marquise Brown. So I would use Marquise Brown's dud in this matchup with Kyler Murray back as an opportunity to buy low, because we know that the Brown-Murray pairing, what it can do. Hollywood was the first targeted player in the game, actually saw a 5th target wiped off due to a defensive pass interference call. The schedule is too good to pass on a potential fantasy wide receiver 1. The Cardinals face Houston, the Rams, and Steelers over the next 3 games, followed by a bye week. Then it's San Francisco, Chicago, and the Eagles. Get Marquise Brown with Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, or this next sell high wide receiver. Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints, sell. Chris Olave was a significant target for the Saints in Week 10, catching 6 of his 9 targets for a 23% target share for 94 yards, including a 26-yard touchdown reception. He also saw 182 total air yards. He actually had another big catch nullified due to an offensive penalty. But all of his production came in the second half of the game. He had 0 first half targets. Carr actually got hurt on his first throw to Olave. Sell high on Chris Olave after his big game with Jameis Winston at quarterback, because that is not going to be the case after the bye week, with Derek Carr likely to cure concussion protocol in that time span. Sell high on Olave for the likes of Michael Pittman Jr., Rashad White, Christian Kirk, Ramondre Stevenson, Isaiah Pacheco, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, or this next buy low wide receiver. Wide receiver DK Metcalf, Seattle Seahawks, buy. Metcalf was the primary target for Seattle in Week 10, making 7 grabs for 98 yards on 12 targets, 29% target share, including the one that set up the game-winning field goal. He saw 53% of the team's air yards at 137, so there's meat left on the bone for Metcalf in the stat sheets. Because through 9 healthy games this year, Metcalf still leads the Seahawks in receiving yards. He's also seen 8+ targets in 4 of his last 6 games, but he's not scored since week 4. The touchdown drought will not last with the upcoming schedule. The Rams, 49ers, Cowboys, and 49ers again are on deck for Seattle for the next 4 weeks. They have a top 5 schedule rest of season for fantasy wide receivers. Buy Metcalf with Saquon Barkley or his own running back teammate. Running back Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks, sell. Walker led the Seattle ground attack with 19 carries for 63 yards, averaging 3.3 yards per carry with his longest run of 13 yards in week 10. Total 4 red zone carries. Meanwhile, rookie Zach Charbonnet added a significant boost with 44 yards on just 6 carries, averaging 7.3 yards per attempt. Walker made a substantial impact in the passing game with a 64-yard touchdown reception on one of his 2 targets. Charbonnet caught 4 passes for 18 yards on 5 targets. It was the first time his route participation was this high at 61%, and it finally turned into actual targets. As a result, for the 3rd straight game, Charbonnet also outsnapped Walker 52% to 42%. The Rams, 49ers, Cowboys, and 49ers again are on deck for Seattle for the next 4 weeks. Considering all of these games, Seattle either will be close road favorites or straight up underdogs. That does not project well for Walker as the team's early down back. The Seahawks have the #1 most difficult schedule rest of season for running backs from week 11 onward. Sell high after he ripped off the massive touchdown reception. Get Rachaad White, Michael Pittman Jr., Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, or this next buy low running back. Isaiah Pacheco, Kansas City Chiefs, buy. Pacheco carried the ball 16 times for 66 yards, 68% snap share, and dominated the route share back in week 9. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed the game, and the other Chiefs running back combined for just 2 carries. Buy Pacheco coming off the bye week. KC owns the #1 schedule rest of season for running backs. After the Eagles this week, it's smooth sailing. Raiders, Packers, Bills, Patriots, Raiders again, and the Bengals. Scoop up Pacheco ASAP with Saquon Barkley, Chris Olave, Joe Mixon, or this next sell high running back. Running back James Cook, Buffalo Bills, sell. Cook led the Bills with 12 carries for 109 yards, averaging an impressive 9.1 yards per carry with his longest run of 42 yards on Monday night. Latavius Murray added 68 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries to go along with the backfield leading 52% snap share. It was a wild game for Cook on Monday night, who only played 46% of the snaps after he lost a fumble in the first offensive play of the game. It was one of the 3 fumbles that Cook was a part of. Another came on a botched exchange between him and his quarterback, and another came on his biggest run of the night. He got the ball knocked out, but it bounced right back into his lap mid-stride. He got extremely lucky. For that reason, I'd cash out now after he went over 100 rushing yards. He finally hit the big explosive runs we've been waiting for, but it came against the most predictable defense in that capacity. And it almost didn't happen at all. Had not been for the fumble going right back to him. Bounces don't tend to be super favorable like that every week. With Leonard Fournette looming and a severe lack of Cook in the red zone, I think shipping him off after the 100-yard game is the right move to make. Not to mention the offense could look different with Ken Dorsey out as offensive coordinator in Buffalo in favor of Joe Brady, and the schedule is brutal, tying Seattle for the worst 4 fantasy running backs. Trade Cook for Jaylen Warren, Drake London, Jerome Ford, Zay Flowers, or package him with a piece to get my #1 buy low running back. Running back Bree Hall, New York Jets, buy. Bree Hall with a season-high 70% snap count contributed 28 yards on 13 carries on Sunday Night Football, while Dalvin Cook added just 26 yards on 4 carries. Hall also showed his versatility, catching 3 passes for 47 yards on 3 targets. More importantly, he ran a route on 56% of the dropbacks. Buy low after he got a touchdown score nullified due to a penalty on Sunday Night Football. He is a bell cow poised for a second half breakout. The Jets have a very favorable schedule for running backs for the rest of the season. In fact, it is the 3rd best for running backs per the FantasyPros strength of schedule tool. Bills and Dolphins are up next, followed by the Falcons, Texans, and Dolphins again. Get Hall at whatever it costs, with the likes of Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, or even Josh Jacobs. Or use this hot waiver wire pieces like Deontay Foreman, Devin Singletary, or this next running back to trade up to grab Hall. Running back Brian Robinson, Washington Commanders, sell. Robinson led the rushing attack with 8 carries for 38 yards, averaging 4.8 yards per carry in week 10. Longest run was 15 yards. Antonio Gibson contributed 13 yards on 4 carries. B-Rob did almost all of his damage as a receiver. Cut all 6 of his targets for 119 yards, including a 51-yard touchdown reception. Gibson also made significant impact in the passing game with 42 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions from 6 targets. Gibson ran 3 more routes, so I bet his receiving role is more sticky than Robinson's rest of the season, especially because it was Gibson's 3rd straight game with 5 targets and 5 catches. His new role is hurting the wide receivers like Curtis Samuel, and his involvement will hurt Robinson in the long run. Robinson's receiving role from routes perspective didn't change from the week prior, so I'd sell high after a likely fluky receiving game. He's 4th in fantasy points scored above expectation, so regression is coming for a running back that ranks just RB34 in expected points per game this year. The schedule is bottom 5 overall for fantasy for running backs for the rest of the season, as well as matchups against Dallas, Miami, the Rams, Jets, and 49ers coming up after the Giants and their bye week. So although the Giants matchup looks easy on paper, this defense limited Robinson just 23 yards back in week 7. Sell B-Rob for Jaylen Warren, Jerome Ford, Ramondre Stevenson, or Isaiah Pacheco. That concludes my list of 10 players to trade before week 11. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, share with all your friends. And again, check out the Fantasy Pros rest of season rankings to help with all your trades before the trade deadlines kick off. But again, before you go, if you want a chance to win a signed TJ Hawkinson Minnesota Vikings jersey, courtesy of Pristine Auction, the premier autographed sports memorabilia auction house, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below this video, and that is it. I'm announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to claim your prize. And if you didn't win, you can still sign up at pristineauction.com using the link in our video description. And if you use the registration code FANTASYPROS, you'll get $10 off your first order. Again, thanks for watching. Good luck with all your trades.